This is big breaking emergency news. We are now getting warnings from top officials. We are seeing dozens of senators send this urgent letter to the president because he is about to sign this treaty that could change everything inside the United States, right? And we have dozens of senators signing on to this and warning that the U.S. could be entering into this new WHO treaty, right? The HWO treaty, right? So let's get into the details here really quick. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe. I'm posting multiple videos a day, keeping you guys updated on this big urgent news, and it helps to get these warnings out. All right, so let's dive into the details here. You can see it says Hagerty, Johnson, and a dozen other senators as well. Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, right? All the top senators are on this letter, and they are saying that this is, quote, unacceptable. This WHO arrangement that Biden has made with this global governance body, right? You can see here it says United States Senator Bill Hagerty, Republican from Tennessee, joined Senator Ron Johnson along with the entire Senate Republican conference in sending a letter to President Biden calling for his administration to withdraw its support for two international agreements being considered at this month's World Health Assembly. This is happening this month. I warned about this a couple months ago that they're going to solidify the rules and everything for this very soon, and it's happening now. It's happening in May. And it says that would grant greater authority to the dysfunctional World Health Organization and potentially weaken United States sovereignty. That's what they're saying right here on Bill Hagerty's website, right? And you can see here, here's the letter that they just sent to the president as well, and they are warning that this is going to potentially be a major takeover, and we're not going to have control. And they're saying there is over 300 different potential rules and adjustments to U.S. law that could happen, right? And this comes at the same time that we're having stuff like this happen as well too. All right, you can see here it says Michigan readies emergency order to manage bird flu outbreak hurting poultry farmers, right? And they're saying this emergency order is going into effect today, starting Wednesday, May 8th. A state emergency order will go into effect in Michigan in an effort to limit the spread of the highly pathogenic bird stuff. Maybe this is what they're getting ready for, and even if it's not, if this becomes something, this treaty is going to have jurisdiction over it and have authority over how it's handled. You can see here it says next month during the 77th World Health Assembly, your administration is expected to commit the United States to two international agreements that would strengthen the World Health Organization's authority to declare public health emergencies of international concern and expand the WHO's authority over member states during such emergencies. And they said this is unacceptable, right? This is a letter that's signed by, look at these, dozens of different senators are on board with this and worried that this is going to take away U.S. sovereignty, right? It's pretty much the entire Republican Senate is on board with this. And you can see here they were saying that some of the over 300 proposals for amendments made by member states would substantially increase the health emergency powers and constitute intolerable infringements upon U.S. sovereignty, the senators wrote. Right, 300 proposed amendments, right? So these are essentially 300 different rules or laws, that's regulations, right, that the U.S. would follow, that are international laws, which isn't Because treaties, this is another thing as well, treaties are not supposed to be ratified unless they pass the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the President. They have to be ratified by Congress as well, right? But this one is just going to be ratified by the President alone, so it might not have long-lasting effects if the next president, say Trump, gets in and he doesn't want to do this. He could probably get out of it very easily, right? But if they ratify this through the Senate, through the House, which there's a possibility, there's maybe a possibility if they get enough votes. It seems like they're coming out strong against it, though, with this letter. But you never know. You never know how this stuff goes over here. You really don't know whose side, what they're really doing, right? But they're so tricky. You never know what their actual plan is here. But they're saying at least 300 different rules and regulations, and they would be implemented. The Biden administration is signing onto this. So if something happened, and who said that the U.S. needs to, whatever, shut it all down, shut down all the whatever chicken farms for, this is hypothetical, I'm not saying this is happening, but whatever, put massive regulations on chicken farms, cattle farms, all this stuff. It's already happening right now. They signed a federal order just last week, I reported on, that now requires testing of all cattle and chickens that are moving state to state. They now have to have a test for this bird, you know what, for the big bird going around. They have to have testing for that, and they have to have a negative test to send your cattle or chickens across state lines. This is a federal order by the USDA that was just put in place last week. All right, I made a whole video on it documenting all the effects of it. All right, this is going to affect farmers, our supply chain, our food supply, potentially, and especially small farmers. They're not going to be able to potentially send their food and their farm items across state lines. This is affecting hatching eggs, chicks, all this stuff. Hatcheries are being affected by this. All this stuff, it's coming down hard, all right? And this could be potentially what they are preparing for. It seems like this is really bubbling up. All these different states are doing this. Michigan is saying that they are going to have these new rules and regulations, all right? You can see here it says Michigan's been in the unique position of dealing with a pretty significant HPAI outbreak, both in a number of fair herds here in the state, but a number of poultry operations as well, all right? So it's cattle and poultry, chicken, some commercial egg-laying facilities, some turkey farms as well, all right? So they are saying that they're going to require testing for the movement in and out of Michigan now. And honestly, if you ask me on this situation, it seems very suspicious too, right? I don't know. Somebody tell me down below, explain it to me. I'm just asking questions, but how are all these things just coming out of nowhere? How is it just everything spreading so quickly from species to species? All these things are happening, right? It's just jumping from, think about it. This was a avian, affects birds, not mammals at all, okay? And then it goes to cattle. Now it's affecting cattle. It was if they were saying it was affecting cats. Now it's affecting mammals. Completely different species. Totally different species. And everything. Right? It's not even like it was mammal to mammal or very close. So I don't know what's going on here. Okay? And now it's getting to humans too. So what's going on? This seems very strange and very suspicious that all this is happening. And at the same time, this treaty is about to go into effect, right? They're saying here, though, that the WHO's most recent publicly available draft of its new response treaty is dead on arrival. And check this out. This is the actual draft treaty that is posted by the WHO, right? Check this out. This is part of it, right? It says Article 13, Supply Chain and Logistics. And you can see here, I covered this a few months ago. I was showing this document. See, March 13th, 2024. All right, I was covering this when it came out. This is an official document, all right? Revised draft of the negotiating text of the WHO you-know-what agreement, right? So this is real. And there's a ton of stuff, right? It's so much stuff. It takes over the medical system. There's a One Health approach to everything in preparedness and response. Everyone has to be on the same page. And it's all a global thing now. It takes over healthcare and the workforce, and they have control and jurisdiction over what healthcare workers have to do, what kind of medical procedures they have to undergo to stay inside of the force, and also what kind of procedures and operations they have to abide by. All right, you remember all these things they have to, all this crazy stuff, right? They have to do certain things. They have to put somebody on a... You remember where certain things were mandated, like certain procedures, you have to do this, like if you have this, you have to do this now. You have to be quarantined. You have to take this certain medicine or whatever, right? So they're going to have control over that too. And they're also going to have control over supply chain and logistics. I thought this was very interesting as well. It says the global supply chain and logistics network is hereby established, right? So they're making a new global governing body to manage the supply chain. This is insane. It says the network shall be developed, coordinated, and convened by WHO in partnership with parties and other relevant international and regional stakeholders, and shall be guided by the principles of equity, transparency, inclusivity, timeliness, fairness, and consideration of public health needs. Right? This is what they're saying. This is crazy. And it's all very broad. So there's a lot of wiggle room. Right? The more broad things are, the more legal power and standing, more legal ground that people can gain. Right? They can say, well, it says we have to do this. It has to be fairness or whatever, so we have to do this other thing, right? It really gives them a lot of wiggle room to move around. It says the network shall pay particularly attention to the needs of developing countries, including those in fragile and humanitarian settings, right? So it's saying, too, that they're going to take over parts of the supply chain and send certain medical equipment, certain medicines, things like that. They're going to make sure it goes to certain countries. Like, they're going to be in charge of it all. It's like, well, there's only a billion doses of this thing, right? And they're going to say, well, we're going to decide who gets the billion, right? They're going to be in control of all that. And a lot of it, the U.S. will even have to pay for. Like, we're going to pay for something, and then we will have to allow them to dish it out to whatever country, right? This country needs it more. This country has less, whatever. They have more cases, or they're less fortunate. They don't have as big of a budget or something. So they get the doses, all right? That's what we're talking about here. And also, even, it's very broad as well. They're going to have potentially even control over, remember how bad the supply chain was during all this stuff, right? How there were massive shortages. There were everything was disrupted. Raw materials, all these things, lumber, all these things were disrupted. Fertilizer, critical minerals, everything was having major disruptions, right? And we could see them take control of things like that, even energy, even resources, raw materials, oil, gas, anything. All right, we could see things like that taken over in the supply chain as well. To, they need it more right now. Maybe they need these resources more, so they're going to get it. This is really a really big deal, right? 29 pages, and it's a lot of stuff in here, all right? I've skimmed through most of it. It's a lot to read. It's a lot of jargon, right? But you can see here it says whole of government, whole of society approaches, right? The parties are encouraged to adopt whole of government, whole of society approaches, including to empower and enable community ownership of and contribution to community readiness for and resilience to, prevention, preparedness, and response, right? So they're saying that this needs to be a national whole of society thing, right? They're saying it needs to be planning, decision-making, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation shall also provide effective feedback opportunities. All right, so this is what they're working on. And something that I also thought was interesting is that this was also just tweeted out, or I guess sent out on social media by Donald Trump Jr., right? So this is just something that was going viral. A lot of people noticed that he sent this out, and people were wondering, what does this mean? What exactly does this mean? It's a picture, and it says, whatever happens next, do not comply. And this is actually Michael Douglas, and he just sent this out on his Instagram, and people are responding to it, right? People are wondering what's going on here. What does this mean? Whatever happens next, do not comply. So I don't know, maybe he knows that something's about to happen. This is about to go through, pass. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. This is from the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas. The screenshot, right? And you can see he has broken glasses, and he goes through a lot of stuff in that movie. All right, so let me know what you guys think about all this stuff. This letter is serious, right? All the senators are on board here, and they're saying that this is going to take their sovereignty. You don't really see this. You don't see them all on board on something like this. This must actually be some kind of challenge to their power, right? Because think about it. You don't see all these names come together like this often. This many senators agree on something. I know they're all from the Republican, or at least like most of them, it seems like a lot of them are Republicans, but you still don't see them all come together. This must be an actual challenge to their power, and they're realizing, hey, wait a minute, we're not going to have a say in this if this happens again, right? So make sure you guys are getting ready. Make sure you are getting prepared, getting prepped. Have your stockpiles ready to go. Have your garden. Get it going. Get your chickens. Get your homestead going, because that was the only thing we could do when all this stuff was happening. We were just at home. That's what we normally do anyways, right? Working on our homestead. But that's all you could do, is just work on your homestead. All the parks were closed. Everything was closed. If you didn't have a yard or anything when everything was closed down in 2020, then it was a lot tougher, right? And we could see potential situations like this pop up again, right? So let's hope not. Let's say we do not want this. We don't want it. We don't want it. Don't do it. Don't sign it. Don't do it, right? We don't want this. Do not comply with this. We don't want this junk happening again, right? We don't want our country to go through something like this again. So thank you guys for watching. Please hit it up for me down there. I appreciate that. It helps to get these warnings out so people know what's going on, because they're really not talking about this stuff. I don't know. I haven't really seen this anywhere. That's how a lot of the stuff on here is that I'm not really seeing this many places, right? So it helps to get these warnings out. People need to know this is all kind of happening in the background. There's a lot of stuff going on, big news going on all over the world, but this is big news in the US, and it's kind of happening in the background, and this could change our entire society, right? So thank you guys. I hope you have big blessings for your life, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.